4 years ago, we saw Mitt Romney fall into a similar bind where he was making the rounds, running against Barack Obama, talking down the economy, saying it had real faults, that it was still staggering, wasn't doing well. But he was doing that mainly in states like Virginia, Colorado, Ohio, Florida, where the economies, for one, were actually doing pretty well. And in a number of those states, the Republican governors, at that time in Virginia and in Ohio very distinctly, were talking up the state of their economy. So at the moment, we see a very similar scenario playing out where Donald Trump is going to the same states, using much more apocalyptic language about the state of the national economy, but also talking about, wastelands and disaster areas and the Rust Belt in a total state of collapse. And you have governors like John Kasich in Ohio, of course, telling a very different story about the state of their economy. In particular, in the last week, Trump kind of ran into a bit of a wall in Michigan, where he had gone the week before in Michigan and talked about what a disaster area the manufacturing sector was there. And then Rick Snyder, the Republican governor, came forward a few days later and said, wait a minute, I totally disagree. You have it all wrong. And Michigan is the number one in the creation of manufacturing jobs over the last few years, said Snyder. And he was actually right. Michigan has had some real problems. Of course, the recession totally battered the auto sector. Manufacturing jobs really plunged there, but they have come back sharply. And over that span, Michigan has actually led the nation in the creation of manufacturing jobs.
Wow. All right. So are there other governors pushing back as well, publicly like that?
Well, one of the other interesting moments is a little bit earlier this month where Trump went down to North Carolina, and preceding him on the stage, Governor McCrory, the Republican governor of North Carolina, went out and talked about how well things were going and how his state was fourth overall in economic growth. And then a little while later, Trump went on the stage and talked about how businesses were dying and had a quote saying, right now, as you stand here, you think you have great jobs, but companies are negotiating to move to Mexico and other places. So it's this clash that, in a weird way, really resembles a similar kind of problem that we saw last time around with Romney.